CAUSENETIC family.
Welcome to the CAUSENETIC podcast.
CAUSENETIC means being a person or thing that gives rise to a phenomenon that is dynamic or energizing.
We're tackling topics and telling the truth.
I'm Roderick Ross.
I'm Keith Benson.
So today, our podcast is called Employment Status, featuring some amazingly creative superstars from two different parts of the country, tackling some of the very same issues that we're facing across the movement. Welcome to the CAUSENETIC podcast. Kim Keith, who is the Vice President of Youth Diversity with the YMCA of the Triangle in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Jenna Cooper, who is the Vice President of Government and Community Relations for Valley of the Sun YMCA in lovely, hot to death Phoenix.
Yeah, but Kim is the VP of Youth Development.
That's what I said.
You said diversity.
Oh, I did? Y'all, that's my life. The youth development.
Don't worry, y'all.
Well, the youth that you work with are diverse. And so,
I mean, if Rodriguez giving me a new title, that's fine. We can roll with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep your last name, though.
Here we go.
So you guys are the rock stars in that area of innovation around after school programming, and that's just such a key role, right?
Yeah, especially now.
We got young people are coming in after school. They want to be able to come into a place that, you know, they feel supported, that they can kind of let off some steam after get out of school, but also be in this enriching space also. Talk to us a little bit about some of the dynamic things that you guys have done in that space.
Jenna, do you want to start?
Right. I mean, Kim, I feel like you and I met during the whole COVID thing, right? Like, I think when we both went with the Y for a while, but I think we really met and started networking virtually because we had to, right? Like the world kind of shut down, our program stopped overnight, and we just started calling each other about what do we do, right? How do we go virtual? How do we keep these kids safe? So right here in Arizona, the governor shut down all of the YMCAs, right? Most states, healthy living centers were shut down because of the spread. We had to slow the spread.
Yep.
But we were still open for essential childcare. So childcare for essential workers. It was pretty scary in the beginning. I mean, we didn't know how this virus worked. We didn't know how quickly it would travel. We didn't know how pervasive it was, but we were still asking our employees to show up every day to take care of kids, of essential workers. And I think that was the start of this network, Kim. I mean, I think it was out of necessity, but I think it's bringing about a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, those silver linings from the pandemic. Yeah, we talked about that. Yep.
And so when you talk about, being in the space, you guys were doing some dynamic things there with working with essential workers. What I like is that you guys met and you've kept this network.
Right.
So, and you've been a resource for each other. Because I don't believe, and particularly in problem the after school space, a lot of people don't understand that there's a network of 900 plus Ys out here that you can connect to people, and they do the same thing you do. And you share some same experiences. Talk about the power of the network and how you guys have benefited to be successful in your roles.
Yeah, I would say, so I'll take this back a little bit, Keith, just to say that if people are out there wondering how they get connected to a network in the movement, I have had success just saying yes. Like if someone from YUSA calls and says, hey, or you see something pop up in Link that, we're looking for people to come together and talk about this subject, even if it's something that you're like, I don't know if I have a ton to offer. Yeah. I think just saying yes and showing up puts you in spaces where you can begin to build a network and you're constantly learning from other people. And I've really valued that. And so if people are like, I don't know who to call, or I don't know, right? Just look for folks on Link or look for opportunities that bubble up that would allow you to come together with people outside of your association or your YMCA. But I've found value in this network in so many ways. I had my whole team here call different vice presidents of youth development around the movement to ask about staffing structure. Just like lots of folks, we've been considering how we're staffing our after school programs. We rely very heavily on part-time staff. Part-time staff have been hard to come by over the last year and a half or so. And so we said, well, we might need to consider what this could look like in the future without as much reliance on those part-time staff. So each person on my team called someone that I've met through this work that we've been doing that Jenna described over the last couple of years, and just interviewed them with the same set of questions. And we gathered all that information and are combing through that together. We've also shared different curriculum frameworks. We have talked through, Jenna, all kinds of things. But really right now we're all coming together to talk through the operating model of after school. All the work that YUSA just did through the thought leader cohort around out of school time, and the McKinsey study around the business model reimagination. We've got different groups working on different pieces of that. And we're all kind of still bringing that back together so that all the recommendations and work from these separate groups will benefit the entire movement. And it's from operating model and staffing practices and program delivery, brand reimagination. There's all kinds of things tied into that work.
I mean, I'm always amazed at how people underestimate the power and the expanse of this particular part of our movement. Earlier this year, we had the opportunity to go to the National After School Association conference. Thousands of after school professionals, right? And when I say professionals, we mean just that. It's not a haphazard thing. You don't just trip into it. It's just not this, put together kind of clumpy patchwork quilt of programming, but it is professionals with cutting edge ideas and policies, practices, and procedures. And I am super excited that, once again, the silver lining, right, of the pandemic is now we're starting to formalize this group of people just in the YMCA who are intentional about, because I think if we had to look at the numbers, that's probably where the biggest bang for our buck is right now, and surely through the pandemic is in the after school or the out of school time spaces. So why wouldn't we give it the attention that it deserves?
Yeah, and I think if we hadn't had those relationships in place prior to the pandemic, a lot of the work that Jenna was describing around essential personnel childcare and remote learning support, we wouldn't have had the opportunity in our lives to show up in that way had we not established the relationships through our out of school time programs prior to the pandemic.
So Jenna, in your role as the Vice President of Government and Community Relations, how is the work around out of school time and the conversation and the discourse, particularly in Phoenix, how is that showing up for you?
So my career has really transformed because of COVID. My history is in childcare, and my background is in running camps and after school programs, and doing that whole wake up at 5:30 to get to the school at 6, and then being there again at 2 p.m. So taking care of the kids until 6:30. Oh yeah, I lived that life, right?
I'm not jealous. Not jealous.
I mean, it's a particular breed of folk, right?
It is absolutely it is.
Right. And I was arm in arm with those folks, and they're out there, and they're the ones that are doing the tremendous work every single day to impact the lives of youth. And they're my favorite people in the Y, I have to tell you, right? Like anytime I get a chance to go on a field trip, like Kim said she was doing earlier today, or play group game, I'm there. But really what happened with my career, how I got this government community relations angle is in relation to telling our story and expanding our footprint. So we have, my background, right? I know after school programs, but in Phoenix, about 30 years ago, many schools realized that they could make money at this work, and they decided to start their own after school programs. So the YMCA, 30 years ago in Phoenix, we lost all of our contracts, right? So we brought all of our after school programs into our buildings and had been operating as such for quite some time. Well, the pandemic hit, and immediately, right, schools were in desperate need. They were trying to go back in person. They needed to have childcare up and running, but one, if they were running their own program, they didn't have staff anymore, or two, other contractors that they had, they were too afraid to come back, or they also didn't have staff to come back. So it was an opportunity for us in Phoenix to raise our hand and say, we're willing to do this, right? We never closed, not even for a day. We did essential worker childcare, and we actually muscled through the hardest, scariest part of the pandemic, starting at day one, March 2020. And we learned best practices and how to execute this in a really safe manner. We have the cleaning practices, the distancing protocol, and we found really cool virtual programs and enrichment experts to bring in to create fun for the kids in this new setting. So I started knocking on doors, right? I started picking up the phone. I heard certain providers were not coming back or they didn't have enough staff. So, right, I got kind of, I guess, entrepreneurial about it and started.
I love it.
Yep. Started calling schools, say, hey, I heard you might be in need. And it's led to a point now where we have 15 programs in after school spaces. And I even just submitted a proposal to another district for 5 more schools. And so, right, so taking this and telling our story not only to schools, potential partners, but also telling our story to government entities, to the state, to the county, to the cities. They're desperate for these resources, and frankly, they just didn't know we existed anymore.
Yeah.
So now I feel like I'm a really important storyteller and entrepreneur at the Y.
I love that. I love that. We talked about that before, in the innovation space and how the pandemic pushed people to their innovation edge. And for many, the difference was, I know that there is a gap to be filled, and I know that we have something to offer, but I'm waiting for permission or I'm scared to just go in and take that leap. And it doesn't sound like that was the case for you, Jenna. It's like, I know what we could do. I'm going to start calling people. We're going to make it happen. Like, you didn't try to run it through all of these protocols. Like, you just saw a need. You saw that we had the skill set to fill the need, and then you just went after it.
And thank you for mentioning leadership, right? Leadership is such a critical part in all of this.
Yeah.
So I report to the COO, Libby Corral, and our CEO, Brian Madden. They wholeheartedly said, Jenna, make calls, see what you can cook up. They gave me full reign to just try anything. And that unbridled trust and confidence made me believe that I could do anything, right? So I got really brave, and I had a lot of courage, and I just started trying a bunch of stuff, and a lot of it's been working. So, right, any C-suite professionals that are listening to this, right, just imagine what happens when you give your staff some leash and some rope, right, and the opportunity to fail. We, right, as a VP in the organization who's just like working my way up, right, I just want a chance to serve, and I want a chance to make an impact in the lives of others. And I'm going to try as hard as possible. And just right. Thank you for allowing young professionals to try.
Right. That's excellent. I love that. You wanted to add to that, Kim?
Well, I was just going to say that Jenna also during this time has really immersed herself in the understanding of government funding and has become a resource to folks across the movement, not just there in Arizona, but of like what questions to ask and who to ask them of, and what might be coming and how to access different funding streams and how they've chosen to use those there in Phoenix. And so I think that really speaks to also, Jenna, how your role has transitioned and led to where you are today, because you really just dove in and started figuring it all out, right?
Well, let's talk about that, because what you're not saying is she did $20 million over a 2-year period. Like, we want the cheat codes to that right there, because I say that $20 million. I mean, that's an association, right? That's bigger right? That's a mid-major. So, what are the cheat codes to getting $20 million over a 2-year period of time?
I love that question, and people are going to think that I'm nuts, but it's picking up the phone and starting the relationship. I'm not kidding you guys. Like, I had some ins, right? I had some contacts in some key places to get the right cell phone numbers at the right time. Like, I had a friend who could get me the cell phone number of the director of the Department of Health Services, like the bigwig who's on TV every day reporting the COVID numbers, right? Like, I got her cell phone number, but anybody can do that, right? Anybody can find that phone number and get that email address and just start a conversation. The thing that continues to surprise me about building the Y is it's the most surprising thing, and it's the most moment. We have the biggest name in the industry, and we are the most trusted brand for good reason, right? We do really great work. People know us. People have personal history and good experience with us. When the Y comes calling, people answer. I just pick up the phone, right? That's how I've been doing it.
Yeah.
So Kim, you've been in youth development for a while, and you know, a lot of times
to say she's very knowledgeable. Don't say a while, because then people want to do math and they want to carry the one, and that's not, you're not supposed to say that.
Then they start looking for wrinkles on my face.
Thank you. And did she have filters?
So Kim,
yes,
you have been in the movement and gained a lot of knowledge over your time.
Good job.
Is that good?
Yes.
That's good.
Don't say over your time. Just say gained a lot of knowledge.
You gained a lot of knowledge.
Yes.
And with that knowledge, you know, over this time, there's On, Cameron, and Harrison, and the three-legged dog Frankie that's come into play. Some people may be out there wondering in youth development, well, I may want to find a spouse. And so can you give the cheat code to how might one find a spouse if a counselor at the YMCA?
Are you like doing a counselor dating game or something?
Because
I may have met my husband at the Y. My very first day as an after-school counselor when I was 17 years old, working at the same YMCA where I still work in the same association. Met him and we were co-counselors for a while, and then we've been married 18 years this summer. But I do think that, Keith, the real question behind what you're saying is, I think the balance, right? People always talk about, like, how do you do all these things that Jenna's describing? Jenna has a family also.
Yes.
And I really think that you have to find a teammate that supports your work and supports you. And then my kids just know, like, we're in this together. You know, we're a team. Our whole family's a team. And there are times where they get to enjoy the benefits of me working at the Y. They get to go to day camp. They get to go to overnight camp. We get to go on weekend camp trips together. And there are times where there are a little bit of sacrifice because mom has to go and you don't get to come. Right. And so we really just figured out how to make it work. But they love that I work at the Y. And I hope that they always value that and choose to raise their families in the Y when they get older, because they've seen how much, joy it brings to our family.
You know, I'm thinking that might have to be a podcast, because we're all in the same space, right? I mean, thousands and thousands of people across, and we have families, and we always talk about work-life balance, and like, where do you draw the line? I know my challenge is that I wake up every day and I really love coming to work, because what I'm doing is what I would be doing even if I didn't work for the Y, right? I'll be doing this type of work. And so, like, what do you find a balance over time to be able to raise, a family, and be able to be passionate about your work, be, excited for your family. But, I love what you're saying in that, your kids they love the Y and they participate in the Y. And it's like, take advantage of the opportunities that we have. I mean, the overnight camps. I mean, like, personal training discount. I mean, whatever the discount is that we get, like, hey man, I'm in it. You saving me money? Okay, fine. Come on, baby.
I knew the saving money.
Hey.
We might need to have a podcast on the saving money cheat code too, Keith.
Yeah. I mean, but like, I know when I had the option of is a Y camp versus another camp, like, I got an eagle eye for what quality looks like. And so over there, like, that don't look right.
And they were going to charge you full price.
Exactly. Well, go on now. I you slid that in there. Stop there. No.
And you were going to have to pay full price.
I know what the quality of Y delivers. So therefore, we had the opportunity to put the kids in their camp also. Wow. Man, this is incredible. This is incredible.
Well, speaking of money, right, and people working, you all, just like many of the YMCAs across the country, particularly in the after school space, we are all clamoring for new innovative ways to find staff, to staff up our sites when we get into partnerships with new school districts to make sure that we're providing quality and safe programs. What are some of the innovative ways that you guys are looking at, or some things that you are doing in the staffing space?
So Jenna and I both had an opportunity to participate in a thought leader cohort that spent a lot of time doing some research around staffing. Each of us interviewed different people in the movement, outside the movement, in other organizations that are known for strong staff culture. So like Chick-fil-A and then we also interviewed some competitors as well as school districts. And we brought all that information together in this discover phase that is setting up the work that I described that's happening through business model reimagination. And I would say the three things that bubbled up, and Jenna can correct me or add to what I'm saying, but one is your pay has to be in the ballpark, right? Like it's not all about pay, but you have to be able to pay people enough that they can make a living by working at the Y. The second was really around professional development. If they don't see a career path for themselves, if they don't see what their next step is, they're not going to stay with us.
Wow.
And you think that is even the counselors that are working in your after school program don't always see a path for themselves. And Rodrigo, you were talking about the professionals that you met at the National After School Association convention. A lot of people don't see the value or think that this is a real job. And so we really need to invest in folks and help them understand, the skills that Jenna's gained at the Y, the skills I've gained at the Y, and I'm sure for both of you, I could walk out the door and I have skills that will transfer to any other job that I might want to do, or lots of other jobs that I might want to do. And I don't know that people always see that. And so we need to help them see that. We need to see that there's a path for them in the Y, and invest in them and building those skills. And then the third thing, that I can't remember right now, but it'll come to me, was it. And so those are two things, pay and professional development. And Jenna, I don't know if you can remember.
Well, the other thing that we're doing here that we're having tremendous success with is, this is radical, right? Providing free childcare programs to your employees. Radical, guys, but we're doing it. We've been doing it for our full-time staff for a while. We also started it for part-time staff. If you work 20 hours or more a week for the YMCA, you can bring your kid to school with you or to work with you, and we'll take care of them while you're working. And it has been the most significant game changer in our recruitment strategy, hands down.
Wow. And are you finding that there is a significant cost that the organization is bearing? Because many times when we bring that up, the CFOs and the comptrollers and the accounting people in this space, we're gonna
they got a whole lot of money.
And the program's gonna be full of staff kids. Then that's exactly how they sound right now.
I'm gonna tell.
But they always go to, there's going to be this huge loss of revenue because we offer what I think is an amazing perk and a benefit to being a staff person at the Y.
It's huge. And talk about employee retention, right? So we have government funding now that is helping to subsidize it. But I'll tell you, when we started it, so Libby Corral, Brian Madden, Peyton Toon, who's now up in Snohomish County.
Right? Peyton.
Yeah, Peyton, right? This like leadership vision of, hey, we should just give this to free for our employees because they deserve it and they'll probably stay longer. And you know what? It's working. My kid is 2. He goes to YMCA preschool. I would love to have another kid someday, right? And just knowing that I have not only, a great family support of colleagues, but also like a safe place to put my kid every day that I don't have to pay for. I mean, that's like doubling my paycheck. Childcare is not cheap. It is not cheap.
No.
As a parent who have those little stair-step kids, and I had 2 kids in preschool and daycare and after school at the same time, we didn't have that. And that would have absolutely been a game changer because, oh my gosh, the point of stress that causes when you're trying to figure out and navigate, and the cost of childcare is astronomical. That definitely is a game changer. Good job.
Yeah. I think any CFOs worried about it, they should call Brian or Peyton or Libby and just ask about the difference it's made, right? Because sometimes things don't make dollar sense, but they just make people sense. And we're a people business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Right. Kim, did you remember the third one?
It was mental health. And I can't believe that. It's probably because I needed
please don't forget that.
I forgot that.
Please don't forget that.
But yeah, and there's a ton of work happening in the Y, right, around mental health, and there's a lot of good resources. But that was the other thing that that bubbled up through all of our research, is that if we're not caring for the mental health of our staff, they're not going to stay with us. They're not going to.
That's so true. That is so true. People are over jobs that stress them out, that decrease their life expectancy, that cause them anxiety. Like that kind of loyalty, it's done. It's done. And we should honor that, because truly working at the Y really shouldn't cause you that kind of angst. Like you shouldn't feel that way from working at the Y. So, those are 3 good ones though. Those are good. Those are good.
You ladies are amazing, doing incredible work out there in that space of innovation. Those who are listening, I hope you guys will take advantage of the network and be able to call on Kim, be able to call on Jenna, and find out just innovative ways that you're doing some things. I love the $20 million that you've received over the last couple of years.
Don't try to figure it out on yourself. Get the cheat codes from these ladies. Yes.
And Kim, pat old Frankie on the head for me. Tell him Mr. Keith said hello out there.
The dog does not know you, Keith.
My pandemic dog loves everyone though, Rodrigo. It's okay.
The dog doesn't know Keith. Kim, do not encourage this behavior, okay? The dog does not know you, Keith.
You leave Frankie alone. That's right.
I'm gonna leave that relationship alone.
Hey, look, CAUSENETIC family, thank you guys for listening.
On this episode called Employment Status, featuring none other than Kim Keith and Jenna Cooper.
Hey, look, subscribe and listen to us weekly.
And don't be shy. Give us a 5-star review.
And as always,
be dynamic,
be phenomenal,
be
CAUSENETIC.